They've been trying to get rid of us for 40 years now at least.
In a small arm of San Francisco Bay lies a unique community whose way of life is being threatened.
They don't want to see us taking care of ourselves.
Local authorities have been crushing the boats they call home, aiming to end this alternative lifestyle.
This is a way of life. This is a culture.
Now, only a handful of people remain. The last vestiges of a community adrift.
My name's Kim. I live at anchor on my sailboat, and I've been living here for, since 2013, so that's about 11 years. I traded my first car for my first sailboat for my 21st birthday.
That's cool. And this is this that sailboat?
It is. This is the boat, yeah.
When you first got out here, what was it like out here at that time?
Oh, it was like a mecca of boats. There were at least over 200 boats out here, and it was, beautiful. It's breathtaking. I felt like being at anchor, it was like, it's freedom, it's pure freedom, and I couldn't believe a place like this existed.
That's how I came to be here. I was landscaping on these hills here, and I was looking down here. I drive by, going to the city, and you can see all the boats anchored out. And I thought, man, they're freedoming pretty hard down there. I think I'll join them. I had no idea what was going on.
The anchor-outs are a group of people living on boats anchored offshore in Richardson Bay.
I've been here for 64 years, and the 50 of it I was anchored out, just out here doing the boat thing, since I've been 14.
I've been out here 30 years.
For decades, people have lived anchored out in the bay. And for decades, local governments have been trying to get rid of them, imposing time limits on anchoring and using force at times.
They came and just like a bunch of unclassed thugs took homes.
In recent years, efforts to remove the anchor-outs from their floating homes have ramped up. Boats have been seized and crushed. How many boats would you say that they took overall?
When I first moved out here 10 years ago, there was over 200 boats.
Oh, wow.
There's like 35 now.
Recently, I spent 3 weeks out on the bay. I got a chance to see firsthand what it's like living anchored out, and spoke with the few remaining people who have chosen this unique way of life.
We're kind of some of the last, American rebels. We're kind of, they don't like that we don't pay rent and that we don't have gas and electrical bills. But that's part of what I like about it. We do pay rent in the sense that we pay it in blood, sweat, and tears,
Richardson Bay is located about 5 miles north of San Francisco and is surrounded by the cities of Sausalito, Mill Valley, Belvedere, and Tiburon. For more than 100 years, ships and small boats have been anchoring in this shallow natural harbor. During World War II, the Sausalito waterfront became a hub of shipbuilding for the war effort. After the war, communities of houseboats sprung up along the shoreline. This eventually led to a conflict in the 1970s known as the Houseboat Wars. The aftermath of that fight drove many people from the bay, but left a few remaining houseboat communities that Sausalito is famous for today. Some people view the current efforts to remove boats from the bay as just the most recent skirmish in a decades-long battle to gentrify the waterfront.
Big money is paying people to intimidate, threaten poor people, and push them out of here. It's a pretty old tale, but in this case, billions and billions of dollars worth of waterfront is being taken from the people.
They want to have a bunch of, really wealthy multimillionaires on expensive mooring balls out here. Something they've got up their sleeves. I know that it involves money and development, and nobody out here for free and no poor people.
In 1985, the municipalities surrounding the bay formed a joint agency, the RBRA.
The RBRA, it's the Richardson Bay Regional Agency. I call it the rich boy reach around.
Some of the anchor-outs question whether the RBRA actually has authority to regulate the bay. Richardson Bay was designated a special anchorage area under Coast Guard regulations in 1969. Because of this, some anchor-outs claim that the local governments are trying to supersede federal regulations. In 2000, the RBRA petitioned the Coast Guard to add a note to the regulations, but some of the anchor-outs remain unconvinced.
Law is passed down, law isn't passed up. The original U.S. Constitution states that no state shall supersede federal, period. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you do. This is protected under that. It's Article 6, Section 2, U.S. Constitution. If you disagree with it, write the law, amend it, go through the process. That's what this country is about.
In 1987, the RBRA created an ordinance which limited the time a boat could anchor in the bay to 72 hours. This ordinance went largely unenforced for decades.
They're never going to shut down the anchorage. 72-hour limit on the most famous anchorage in the world is preposterous. It's laughable.
Pressure from local government agencies is just one of the hardships the anchor-outs have to deal with living on the water.
You know, you do have to work for it. You have to hold fast in the storms. There's a certain amount of preparation. There's more to this lifestyle than it appears.
Yeah, it's hard work. You've got to lug your water out. You got to create your electricity with solar panels or a generator. And, you know, it's not for everybody, but
It's a job to get to shore. That's what a lot of people don't get. They think they're just, oh yeah, they're just living out there for free, and it's well, it's like all fucking sunshine and shit. It's not. It's a rough life, and it's expensive unless you let it rot out from underneath you. I mean, there are people out here that think that this anchorage is a campsite, and they just sit on their boats and let them rot out from underneath them. But not everybody does that. I love this boat, man. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt me when they take it from me.
It's the unkept boats Brian mentioned that some of the anchor-outs blame for the crackdown on their community in recent years.
I think that they intentionally didn't regulate things for a long time. They wanted things to kind of grow out of control so they could expedite their smear campaign.
But every community has its share of the rebels. So in our community, with our share of rebels, it essentially looks like it represents all of us. And even the people that aren't a part of that chaotic group still have to suffer because now they're wiping out the whole community.
In 2018, the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission, which oversees all of San Francisco Bay, was audited by the state.
And the state basically said, what have you been doing with all the money we've been giving you, you know? And so their big idea to show that they're protecting the bay is that to, you know, get rid of the anchor-outs and say that, well, we're helping the conservation of the bay by getting rid of these anchor-outs that are causing a problem, but we're not.
After this audit, the BCDC put pressure on the RBRA to take action. They began labeling boats as marine debris and taking them.
In the beginning, they were just crushing boats, you know. They would take a backhoe and put a big hole in the boat so you can't even get your boat back, you know. And horror stories of people going to be with a dying loved one in a hospital and come back to find their boat gone, you know. People going to shore to get groceries and come. That's how fast they were taking boats. And they took over 200 boats like that.
These actions led to several lawsuits, many ending in settlements between the RBRA and the plaintiffs.
This one boat that they took, this pregnant girl was about to go in labor, and it had seagulls nesting on it, and they claimed that it had no tiller, and it had no engine. They made all these claims, and we took pictures of all that shit and sent it to the judge, and she was very concerned with how the RBRA defines this marine debris. They ended up settling.
I imagine there would have been even more lawsuits if the anchor-outs had the resources to support them.
What do you do when you're fighting City Hall? You know, you're not fighting City Hall. You're fighting these people that are ruthless, and they won't give in a bit, man. They will not lose for anything. So they went and hired somebody on number 1 California Street in San Francisco, some law firm, and they just started firing paperwork at me. I'm trying to deal with these people. Come on, give me my day in court. Let's go to court and talk about this. What you did to me, how you screwed me over, how you took my boat. All they did was motion to dismiss, and I have to, every one of those motions to dismiss, I have to answer it, right? So now all of a sudden I've spent all sorts of money on this trying to do it myself, had people helping me, you know, motion to dismiss, come on, let's go to court, you chicken shits, you know? They're just dirty, you know?
You really have to have resources to go to court. It's a game of money, guns, and lawyers is that famous song. And unfortunately, they do have more of those resources, you know, and that's the game, is to wait it out, you know? It's like, who can show up to court and keep showing up and keep filing paperwork and keep spending your time, money, energy into something like this? It's not easy, you know?
With the removal of boats came a lot of media coverage, much of which the anchor-outs object to.
The amount of negative PR that they've put out against us has been incredible. The amount of effort they've put into getting rid of us, and
they're trying to embellish the worst, I guess, elements of our community.
One frequent accusation is that the anchor-outs are dumping their poop into the bay. This topic began to appear in news stories that covered the removal of the anchor-outs, and routinely pops up in comment sections online.
I've got working toilets on this boat, and I'm sure that there are some people who probably do dump their shit buckets into the water, but that is like not even a grain of sand on the beach compared to what these cities do. I mean, every single one of these cities has these big sewage leaks every year. They're massive. They're millions of gallons. Millions of gallons. I don't even think I can do that in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. I have to add it up.
Like Brian, many of the boats still anchored on the bay also have working toilets. And they apparently used to have an easy way of dealing with their waste.
We used to have 2 people out here that worked doing pump out for a job, and they would just swing by if you needed your boat pumped out and just do it and just give them $20, whatever. They don't tell their boss.
Interestingly, the California Water Board's water quality map clearly shows that the bacteria levels are the worst near the marinas and shoreline. The control station nearest to the anchor-outs actually recorded some of the lowest bacteria levels in the bay. Now certainly, if any of the anchor-outs are dumping their poop in the bay, they should be called out for it. And if I see it, I will film it. But lacking any solid evidence, it seems strange to point the finger at them, and feels like really missing the mark when it comes to the problem of raw sewage being dumped in the bay. In the past few years, the methods to remove the anchor-outs have evolved a bit. So has the narrative for getting rid of them. The most frequently heard talking point now is that they are destroying eelgrass. Do you think that the anchor-outs are damaging the eelgrass at all?
I think to a degree they are. I think there is some damage to eelgrass, but let's back up for a second. So if you have a boat here in the eelgrass and the eelgrass gets knocked down, well, the eelgrass grows back. It's grass. But let's talk more realistically. The number one threat to the marina life here is ozone. The number two is leads in the water, which are from boats. There's 10,000 boats in Sausalito, but the 30 that are on the water now are the problem, not the 10,000. So it's leads in the water and runoff from the houses. Those are the three main contributors to damaging the marine life here in the bay. Ozone, leads in the water, runoff from the houses.
I think the number of boats in the Sausalito marinas is closer to 2,000. But Guy does bring up some valid concerns about the damage they're doing to the eelgrass.
They don't want to hear that because that's where their bread and butter is. All those people pay taxes. All those people pay a slip fee. The city of Sausalito, Marin, Strawberry, all these communities around here have docks. There is not a lick of eelgrass underneath those docks. And keep in mind, it's dredged from one end of Sausalito to the other end of Sausalito. And that's important because that's what's killed the eelgrass.
Audubon, California, who partners with the RBRA to restore the eelgrass, has threats to the plant listed on their website, including dredging. The navigation channel and all of the marinas are dredged every few years to make them deep enough for boat traffic. The website also lists shoreline structures built over the water, essentially boat docks. The main threats to eelgrass are all directly related to the marinas and surrounding cities. The algae growth they cite appears to be caused by cities dumping their sewage into the bay. Algae can be seen all over Richardson Bay. It's growing right on the eelgrass, blocking light from reaching the plant. Eelgrass is in decline across the planet, and while I do think the anchor-outs are damaging it with the keels of their boats, it appears they are far from the main threat. I also think it's important to note that most of what looks like it might be eelgrass in this aerial footage is actually algae. This footage was taken from the deck of the boat in the previous shot. Here, and in other surface-level shots, we can see how difficult it is to spot the eelgrass under the blanket of algae. It feels very biased that the anchor-outs are the only people expected to change their lifestyle to protect the environment. As part of the effort to protect the eelgrass, the RBRA has created an eelgrass protection zone, which encompasses most of the bay. All boats anchored in the bay have until October 15th, 2024 to move outside this area.
I'm willing to go outside their so-called eelgrass protection zone. We're not the cause of any eelgrass problems. In fact, the eelgrass is healthier than it's ever been.
Alongside the new eelgrass protection zone is a housing voucher program to entice the anchor-outs off the water.
I'm giving up a lot out here. $1 million view. I'm not gonna see the seals and the cormorant swarm and my little ocean friends and rock to sleep at night. So I can go on shore and spend more energy and be less green and have a bigger carbon footprint. So my carbon footprint's like almost nothing. Tank of propane, 5-gallon tank of propane lasts me like over a month in the middle of winter. I'm gonna have to drive more, I'm gonna pump gas. Some of the places I look at, they're car dependent. I got a kid and so I can't, to pump more petrol. If they weren't full of shit, they'd be encouraging this kind of lifestyle. They'd be giving people incentives to live this kind of lifestyle. This is good. This is good for the planet. This is good for the bay. It's good for the earth.
Many of the anchor-outs have taken the voucher, but others hope to stay and fight.
There's still a few people out here who think that they're gonna win, and you can't beat big money, man. It's not gonna happen. It's just whether they're breaking the law, which I think the RBRA is, I think what they're doing is completely illegal, but they have the money, and you know, they're an government association, so, or agency, whatever. With this last thing that they're doing, at least if you're gonna displace me, you might as well fucking place me somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, at least they're doing that. And it's the first time they've ever done anything like it.
So why do you think some of these other folks are choosing to try to see if they can stay?
Because just like me, they love it out here. It's incredible, man. It's a community that definitely has its problems, but you know, you're never gonna find anything like this. I mean, this is Waterworld. This is amazing. And as long as you know, got a skill set and you're not an idiot and you don't take too many chances, you know, you'll make it. But you got to know how to repair a boat in the water.
I think at this point, clearly everybody knows what's going on, and so this is more of a choice, a personal choice, whether to stay out here or not. And a lot of people did take the housing, and a lot of people, after the rampant active home eradication began, they fled. There is that saying, if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything, and evil prevails if a few good men do nothing. So I think a lot of the people that are out here still believe in those principles and believe in living out here.
I'm curious to see what will happen after the deadline arrives that requires boats to move out of the new Eelgrass protection zone. It's possible that the RBRA will start imposing a 72-hour anchoring limit on all boats, and only be lenient with those awaiting their housing vouchers. There is a small handful of anchor-outs in the Safe and Seaworthy program. They have until October 2026 to move their boats. It remains to be seen what will happen to them when the time comes. Will the voucher program still be an option, or will they be rendered homeless when they're forced off the bay?
We were invisible before, it was like we might have been this counterculture that didn't fit into the social norms like people on shore seem to fit into. And now how it's changed is it's like we're the target, like now we're prey, we're being singled out, and we're being blamed for things that we're not doing. For what reason, I don't know. Why are we the ones who have to be guilt-stricken if we just choose to have a different lifestyle? That just doesn't make any sense, and it kind of goes against what our country stands for.
The efforts of the anchor-outs to remain on the bay continues. I'll be documenting the story the best I can as it progresses. If you'd like to help me do that, please donate to the GoFundMe I set up, or share this video on social media. Thank you.